Right on. Hey, Brett. So
Hey,
glad, so great to have you back on the pod with us today.
nice to see you.
Nice to see you, my nerdy friend.
Yes, yes.
You take pride in this, I
I
can
kind of
tell.
do. It's
We
true.
always do. We're like back and forth in the DMs, talking about all of the nerdy stuff, and I'm always
Yeah.
bringing you down. I'm like, dude, not down, but like, hey, come back down here, so like all the regular people like us can relate to what's going on here.
It's fun.
It is fun. I love it. I love the science. I love the details, the statistics, the research. It's exciting because I feel like the more we know, the more we can adjust our lifestyles and live stronger, healthier, fitter lives. Like that's the goal, right?
Yeah, my motto is to become harder to kill.
That's right. We're going to be harder to kill because we're going to understand what's killing us.
Exactly.
Just for our new listeners, anybody who's just now tuning in, I just want to let y'all know this is Brett Scranton, a great friend of mine. We met online just because of our love of health, fitness, science, longevity. And he's certified also through NASM, National Academy of Sports Medicine. He's always doing research, just a wealth of information, and I love,
Nerd.
yes, chit chatting back and forth. And we're also both huge fans and friends of Alan Aragon, so dropping some names here. But anyway, Brett, we are doing the four. Tell us what we're doing, by the way.
Well, we decided together we wanted to do a 4-part series on what Dr. Peter Attia, who's a medical doctor, he's actually an oncologist. He wrote this great book called Outlive, but we're taking out of there a concept he brought up, which is called the 4 Horsemen of Chronic
Chronic
Disease,
disease, yeah,
right?
right. Yeah, and we did it. We already did part one, and that was the cardiovascular disease. And today we're going to be focusing on cancer. And we're going to talk about what it is. We're going to talk about the top five uh, predominant cancers. We're going to give you some stats, some understanding of the stages of cancer. We're going to talk a little bit about genetics and versus lifestyle. We're not going to talk about treatments because that's just a whole nother topic in itself. And then we're going to talk about some preventative measures and what we can do to prevent, improve our chances for not acquiring cancers. So that's what we're going to do today. And we're just going to keep it just conversational. And I'm going to ask you questions because I know you've done some research on it. And just to let everybody know, just FYI, neither one of us are experts in this field at all. But we do want to bring the goal. The goal of this episode is to bring awareness to understand, have some awareness of the 4 horsemen of chronic diseases and what we can do to better our lives and our health. So that's the whole goal here. And yes, I am a nurse, but I am not an expert in this area. I just have some decent understanding about anatomy and physiology. So, but this is great stuff, and I really do hope that we can enlighten our listeners and help us all find, just have a very good understanding of the things that could happen, um, and how we can do better in our lives to prevent them. So
Sounds
first
good.
off, Brett, let's talk about like the basic definition of cancer because that word is really scary. People, there's all types of cancer, all types. I mean, like it's a long list of cancers, but we're going to focus on just the primary ones that are the most predominant. But what is a definition? Give us a definition of cancer.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So, from Dr. Peter Attia's book, he says of the 4 horsemen, cancer is potentially the hardest to prevent. And we did this series in order. So this is actually the second deadliest horseman behind heart disease. So to give definition to cancer, cancer is a disease and it's created when abnormal cells divide without control. So they can then invade nearby tissues and organs. So cancer cells can also then spread to other parts of the body through the blood and through the lymph systems. So these abnormal cells basically can invade and destroy surrounding organs.
Okay. And so it's interesting because we hear these terms, we hear the word tumor, we hear the word malignant, benign, and I think that we have a tendency, even those of us who, we think we know, we have a tendency to kind of intertwine all these things. But let's put some distinction to what this really means. Um, Not all tumors are cancerous, number one. But there is a difference between tumors, and that's the thing we need to understand. So, do you want me to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, I just want to sort of bring this to light because I think it's a great question to ask, because I think we like I said, we think that malignant and benign, that those things are all a part of cancer, but it's not. There's a difference. So not all tumors are cancer, but tumors can be either benign or malignant. So a benign tumor, these are they're non-cancerous growths, and they do tend to grow slowly, and they don't spread to other parts of the body, and they're usually not life-threatening, but they can still cause problems if they're pressing on surrounding tissues or organs. And so malignant tumors, these are cancerous, and they grow uncontrollably, and they can invade nearby tissues, and they have the potential to spread. Metastasize is the word, if you've ever heard that word. And that means metastasize means that it will spread to other parts of the body, which, of course, can make it more dangerous. Difference between benign and malignant.
Good
Just wanted to
definition.
touch on that because I think people kind of get that all confused and think they're both cancer, but malignant is cancer. Oh, and speaking of that word, the way that I keep it straight in my mind, because I'm Spanish, right? And a lot of medical words and terms are Latin based, but I think about the word malignant. It's mal, spelled mal, which is mal is the Spanish word for bad. So that's the bad cancer. It's the bad tumor, I should say. Malignant, bad. I think of that. So that's how I always remember the difference between malignant and benign tumors.
Makes sense. And
Oh,
go ahead.
were you going to go on? Because I'm going to get personal.
Oh no, go
Don't let
ahead.
me. Don't skip that part. Do we need? Is this the time? Can I ask you
Yeah,
the personal
yeah,
stuff?
of
Okay,
course you
cool.
can.
All right. So, in our discussion before we started this episode, I was talking with Brett, and I discovered some new things about you, Brett. Some personal things about you and your health, and things that you've gone through in terms of cancer. So, would you share with our listeners? Just because you're my friend, and I appreciate you being open and sharing. You were talking about this cancer. Was it not cancerous? Right? It was just was it cancer for your eye?
No, that's a tumor, but not malignant.
Okay, yeah, let's talk. Tell us about this condition that you had when you were a child.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So the term is called fibrous dysplasia. So everything has a fancy term. That
Right.
just means extra bone cell growth. And many people get it in different parts of their bone system. So maybe in the hip bone or leg bone. For me, I got the fibrous dysplasia in my right orbit. So kind of the eye socket. And I've had it since I was a little kid, since I think it was detected when I was like 5. And I've been watched over the years through grade school and stuff, with visits to university hospital doctors, and actually underwent some pretty major surgeries 25 years ago to more recently about 5 or 6 years ago was my last one. But it's not cancer. It's just abnormal cell growth, but it's benign. So that's a great definition for our listeners.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying you had some abnormal growth tissues around your eye, like
Yep.
around the orbit of your
Yeah, in the
eye,
in the skull.
in
Yeah,
the
the
skull.
in the eye socket.
And
Yeah.
you had what kind of surgeries? I mean, what did they do in the surgery?
Some pretty major stuff. They did a coronal incision, which means you kind of take a knife over the top of your head and pull your face down to
Wow.
access the forehead area, and actually got into the near the brain and did some optic nerve decompression. So, meaning take out some of that extra bone cells to just to prevent it from ever changing and becoming malignant over time. So, kind of
Wow.
as a treatment.
That sounds very that's pretty major.
I know, very Halloween,
Oh my
exactly.
no. And then so you've had the same procedure done multiple times?
Yeah, just looking at the same, condition, but treating various things that come up. So
Oh,
most
okay.
recently, I've had some bone putty put in to contour the appearance of the forehead.
Okay.
Most recently, it kind of, after 25 years, got infected. And so we had to go in and take that infected material out. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. So they have to keep on doing some like follow-up testing and things like that.
Yeah, me and
Excuse me.
my surgeon do a CT scan every 2
Okay.
years.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. Okay. Thanks for sharing.
yeah.
And then you said that you are actually dealing with some cancer. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I found out about 5 years ago. It's prostate cancer, but it was very detected very early. Through a biopsy, we figured out putting 12 needles into the tissue that one of the needles had less than 5% content of suspicious cells. So it's basically stage 0, the lowest stage, lowest grade. But me and my urologist are doing what's called active surveillance. So that just means we're keeping a close eye on things, and we do a blood test every 6 months to watch that. It's called PSA, prostate specific antigen.
Okay.
And we're just watching that metric. And every now and then we choose to do an MRI to look at the volume and some various things. But that is really good to have done that early detection and to know that, because, I had a friend, past tense, Mr. Lynn Branchini. He was a high school friend of mine, died 3 years ago, obviously my age, of prostate cancer, because, it was stage 4, and that's when he found out. And so that at that point, like we're going to talk about, there's, spreading all over to different parts of the body.
Okay.
So early
Okay.
detection is critical.
Yeah, so they're not actually treating your prostate cancer, correct?
No, not. We're just doing active surveillance to keep an eye on
Surveillance.
things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, which leads us to we wanted to talk about the stages. Do we want to talk about the stages first, or do we want to talk about the top 5? And thank you for sharing that. And we are going to talk about the importance of just active surveillance, but just early detection. We're going to talk
Yeah.
about that. But yeah, thanks for sharing. We appreciate that.
My pleasure.
And let's talk about, I guess let's go into the top 5 that we were going to discuss.
Okay.
We're going to focus, I think, mainly on the women, but we're going to touch on both men and women. So the primary 5.
Okay. Yeah, for women, and there's different research, so I try to do my best research here, but I think it's pretty accurate. And this is ordered in the most deadly to, the least deadly. So for women, skin cancer is the most common. And so this, of course, people know probably is brought about due to exposure to UVB rays or sunlight. And those with fair complexion, those with blonde or red hair are more at risk. So there's less melanin in the skin, unlike dark skinned people, which have more protection against the sun.
Right.
So we need to do regular skin checks at home. So just looking at our own self. But then Dr. Attia just talked about this recently on Instagram, but it's really important to make a trip to your dermatologist once a year for an annual skin check.
Hmm.
And that can do wonders for staying ahead of anything that's creeping up or that, suddenly appears.
Okay.
And, there are people that die of melanoma, which is a very, very serious skin cancer.
Yeah.
And that's malignant. That's spreading to all parts of the body.
Right.
And it's pretty preventable if you can be engaged in a skin exam with your dermatologist.
Yeah, that's the reason, I don't think people take it as seriously as they should, honestly. Um, I think a lot of people think, like they don't understand that, like they think skin cancer, well, it's just on your skin, but it's cancerous, which means it can spread to your organs. It's and your skin is exposed. So much of your skin is exposed, especially during the summer months when we're out and about. Like it's really important to protect our skin, and especially like you said, those of us who have a more fairer skin, they're not as they're more likely to have that happen. But yeah, melanoma is very serious. That's the number one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, not to say that sun is terrible and we need to have none of it, because let's talk about that. So vitamin D is the most important vitamin there is.
Yeah.
And there's the primary way we get it is through exposure to sunlight.
Right.
So you don't get very much through food. You can do supplementation for a little bit, but having some healthy, safe and adequate exposure to sunlight is very healthy. And the deficiency of vitamin D is not good at all.
Right.
So that's kind of a tricky one. So that's why I say safe, adequate exposure to sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the next topic could be breast cancer. And from what I'm understanding, I read from University of Kansas Health System. It's just an expert health system that they recommend that all women begin annual screenings with mammograms at age 40.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a statement I'm making. I'm not an expert. I don't know much more than what I'm reading, but
Yeah, got
I
to
want.
get the girls checked.
Yep,
Annually, must.
for
And
sure.
also, you know, I know we're going to talk about early detection, but you know, self breast exams regularly. You know.
Yeah. The next one is lung cancer. And this is an interesting one because, people think, well, that's only going to happen for people that smoke. And, primarily screening is advised for current or former smokers, especially over age 55. But 15% of lung cancers are diagnosed in people who have never smoked. So it's a pretty interesting
Yeah,
statistic.
it is interesting because you're like, you hear that somebody has a lung cancer and people automatically think, oh, they smoked. And that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, there's
You don't have to
pollutants
be a
and
smoker to get lung cancer.
very true. Colorectal cancer is a very big one, and this is very preventable. So Dr. Attia talks about it quite a bit in his book. So the general recommendation, like from the World Health Organization, CDC, is to start your screenings for your colorectal exam at around age 50,
Mm-hmm.
and then to do it once every 10 years if no polyps are found. The American Cancer Society updated that recently to be actually to age 45. And
Okay.
Dr. Attia himself recommends to his clients that they start at age 40.
Okay.
And he says to repeat every 2 to 3 years. Because once again, it's the easiest thing to detect. It has the greatest payoff with the least amount of risk. So,
Of
that's
course,
just his opinion.
I'm not even going to go there, but not all insurances are going to
Insurance.
cover that frequency.
And I think that's, yeah, the Affordable Care Act says, yeah, age 50.
Yeah.
So that's a very good point you make. And then the last one on the list is uterine. So the CDC here says, pap smears is recommended every 3 years for those age 21 to 30, and then every 5 years for age 30 through 65 is what I'm reading. But
Interesting.
keep
I
me
don't
honest.
know. I'm hoping all my ladies are getting that done every year. I hope that's an annual thing, not every 3 years.
Yeah, that's where I'm no expert.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I don't know where that's coming from, but I would say, girl, get your stuff taken care of and looked at once a year.
Yeah, you're the nurse, so I'm trusting you. And then just for our male listeners, the list is very similar. It also includes, lung, colorectal, skin, but then,
But
prostate
was skin
cancer.
the first one also for the men?
I think so.
Because you
And
have these in order of like most dangerous, in that order, right?
yeah, they're fairly close together, but yeah, that's about right. And so skin, prostate, bladder for men, also colorectal and lung. So
Okay.
some of the same protocols are, dealt with for early detection there too.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do we want to talk about like uh protocols, or I mean we were going to talk about like, first of all, you know what? Let's talk about this and then we'll get into those early detection. Um let's talk about early detection. Okay.
Okay.
Right? Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go
Do
ahead.
you,
Tell us
do you,
more about that.
okay. Do you want to just dance through real quick the stages of cancer? Because
Yeah, we were
everybody's
going
heard
to
those
talk about
numbers.
that. You know what? Let's do that first. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
We got these 4 stages.
Yeah. And we could really say it's 5 because there's also one called stage 0.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
people have heard of that before, maybe, but it's very early stage. There is abnormal cell present because that's the definition of cancer, but it's not yet invaded any surrounding tissue. Stage 1 would be the tumor is small and has not spread, so it's kind of just a baby step up from there. Stages 2 and 3 are kind of put together, so there's a gradation there, but this here is, again, the tumor is smaller, has grown outside the organ that it started in, so that's really going to distinguish 2 and 3. And then 4 is this, pronounced one. So that's metastatic cancer. It's also known as advanced cancer.
Okay.
So here that's spread through the blood, through the lymph system to other areas.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is that if it's a stage 0 through 3, something that can be controlled, treated,
Discovered.
better prognosis.
Absolutely.
And then beyond the 3, when we get to stage 4, this is where it's dangerous, where we need to they will probably have to do some more aggressive treatment. and chances, your life is really in danger at that point at stage 4, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just wanted to clarify.
Good point.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think that really is helpful for all of us to just kind of understand those different stages. So, but not all cancer is, I mean, not everything's going to be genetic, not everything's lifestyle, but talk about that. I thought this was great. We were
This
talking
is
about this before.
one of the most interesting things I read today. So, according to PubMed, again, which this is a trusted,
We love our
scientific research.
PubMed. Yeah.
Yeah, the National Institutes of Health. So, vetted, scientific data. Genetics plays a role in developing some types of cancer, but only 5 to 10% of all cancers are hereditary.
Wow.
So, the complement of that is that lifestyle can account for 90 to 95% of cancer cases.
I love these statistics.
This
People need
is,
to understand that we have so much more in control than they think.
yeah.
That's huge. That's huge. That's such a small percentage of cancers that are genetic.
Yeah. And so if we list out that little pie chart, so, 25 to 30% of cancers are due to tobacco use. So I think
Okay.
people kind of get that that's a bad one.
Even secondhand smoke, like,
Yeah, all of
yeah.
it. You're right. 30 to 35% is linked to diet, which we have complete control over. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a big lever.
Yeah.
15 to 20% is due to infections. And then the rest, maybe 15 to 20%, is due to things like radiation, stress, physical inactivity, which again, I think of as lifestyle,
Yeah.
and pollutants.
Okay.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, that gives us a lot of hope that there's a lot of things that we can do to help prevent or improve our chances. Do we want to talk about the early detections of those specific cancers that you mentioned for women? Early detection for those. Yeah. Let's talk about
Well,
those in the order that you discussed them, like early detection for each one of those.
okay. And we kind of, I think, did because I was talking about when you should do your screenings.
Right. Screening once a year. Oh yeah. You talked about screening.
Yeah.
Those are okay. All those screenings that we talked about for that's the early detection.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, in terms of the optimal protocols, this is the fun part that we'll get into. And then we're really going to branch into one of our favorite topics, which is resistance training. But let's just start from the top. So the list of optimal protocols to reduce our, exposure and risk to cancer: smoking cessation, which is so obvious, but there it is. Increasing our fruits and vegetables. And why? This brings fiber, micronutrients, all that kind of great stuff that helps our microbiome and, our nutrition and everything. Moderate and minimal use of alcohol. Can't say enough there. There's nothing good about alcohol. It's got sugar, which cancer feeds on and loves to grow on. It's got ethanol, which damages our tissues, so no one's doing themselves any favors by doing that. And we all know that.
Yeah.
Caloric restriction is going to help us with weight management to keep, our weight in check. Exercise is so important, for different reasons, but we're going to branch into why resistance training specifically is key. And then, avoiding unsafe exposure to sunlight, we talked about. And then people have different opinions about this one, but vaccines, might be beneficial. And then regular checkups obviously is really beneficial.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to get into all those details, but just know that there are protocols. There are things you can do in your lifestyle to help prevent cancers or actually to improve your chances of not getting some kind of a cancer. And I am going to celebrate and just throw this out there. Like, let's be rock stars about our nutrition. I'm all about this because, aside from the fact that we want to prevent or possibly whatever, we want to optimize our nutrition so that we do not get some of these cancers. But just remember, like, what's the reason? It's not just about weight loss. It's not just about fat loss. Like, it's about feeling amazing in your body every single day. And this is why we want to be eating nutrient dense foods, making sure we're getting optimal amounts of vegetables and fruits. I will talk about this all day long. I think about this when I'm eating my veggies and my fruits. I'm like, yes, I'm getting my fibers. I'm getting my vitamins. It's so good. Yes, I'm helping to prevent cancer, but I'm also feeling amazing. Vegetables and fruits, especially because of the fiber, yes, it's great for our bodies and all the reasons, but for the digestive reasons as well, our gut health and getting that fiber in. So we're moving things along inside of our digestive system. Things are moving through, we're getting all the nutrients we need, and then it's getting out of there. It's not staying inside of our system. I think about this stuff. Do you think about it too, Brett?
Absolutely. And what you bring up is really going to be what I'm going to say, the meat and potatoes of our talk. So Dr.
You're
Peter
making me
Attia,
hungry.
I know, we need to have
It's
lunch.
lunchtime.
It's totally lunchtime. Dr. Attia states that the best defense against cancer, besides early detection, which of course is major, is that lifestyle factor, which is metabolic health.
Yeah,
So let's talk about metabolic health.
love it.
Let's talk about
Let's
metabolic health.
talk about it.
Okay. So what does that mean? This sounds great, metabolic health. So it means managing our weight. So that's important to keep track of that. And how do you do that? You have a calorie budget. So some calorie restriction is important.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, please.
Because that sounds so negative.
Doesn't it? Yeah. Let's say it
Don't be restricting me, buddy, because I will rebel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna get very rebellious if you restrict me. I think of that word and I'm like, oh my God, so nobody wants to be restricted. I think it's like calorie management.
That's a better.
Probably.
We have to balance our activity.
Managing our calories, our energy balance. Like calories are energy. So we need to understand that we don't want to be in a surplus. I mean, unless you need to be, unless you need to gain, weight mass on your body for health reasons. But I just, for a lot of listeners, I know they're working on their fat loss. And I want to bring this out here. Like, ladies, let's not slash our calories. We've got to be eating calories for our performance. We need to have plenty of calories to get through our day. And if you're in a calorie deficit, but eat as many calories as you're able to while still being in a calorie deficit. I just feel like I need to throw that out there because women want to slash their calories and they're not doing themselves any favors.
Men do too. And you're absolutely right. And I'm glad you brought that up. So energy balance is the key, not calorie, restriction, because that's not going to do you any favors for your metabolism. You might lose muscle. There's all kinds of risks associated with severe caloric restriction. That's right.
Okay, cool.
Pressing the fruits and vegetables. So we talked about that quite a bit. Less sugar, less saturated fat, less refined carbs. So we talked about this last time too, but cancer, again, it metabolizes based on glucose. So, that's really important, especially for people that are going through treatment or that have, a diagnosis or what have you. It's really important to keep track of that and manage that,
Mm-hmm.
and prioritizing our protein.
Say that, sugar is just a very generalized term. And also there's, just for education purposes, carbohydrates are basically sugars. They're compounds, right? When you break down when we break down carbohydrates, we have sugars and our bodies break it down. We have complex carbohydrates and we have simple carbohydrates. And complex carbohydrates, basically carbohydrates that your body has to work to break down. But simple carbohydrates, our bodies don't have to work to break them down. Simple carbs, simple sugars are like, juice, sugary drinks and candies that just go straight into your bloodstream. These are the things that we want to, we don't want to eliminate them. We like our fun foods, but we need to be very careful about them and just moderate.
Yeah.
And, yeah. I wanted to just explain that because I think that what we need to think about is the sugars we're putting in our bodies. Not all sugar is unhealthy. It's just the form of sugars that we're putting in our body, I think is really the key to pay attention to when we're thinking about, I don't want to feed cancerous cells. Well, then let's avoid the sugary, simple sugars, simple carbs.
Super great point, Anna, and you're setting me up for my next note. So this is a great segue.
Good.
Just to finish this section, some statistics from Peter. 13% of all cancers are due to obesity. Type 2 diabetes doubles our risks of certain cancers, and extreme obesity creates 62% greater risk of death in women. So, managing the weight is going to make a big difference in this realm of disease.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the neatest things I read in Dr. Atia's commentary was that muscle is not susceptible to cancer. So this really
I
got
know
me
you're going to
excited.
go there.
Yeah.
Can we back up a second?
Yeah.
Because I have to say something about alcohol.
Do
Well, I don't
it.
want to just like skip over that. Like, yeah, we know alcohol is bad and like it's not good for your body, and there's just nothing good about it. But I want to just say on a personal note that I drink alcohol for years, just as a regular part of my life. When I was on my fat loss journey, it was part of what I did drink it. Not like I wasn't a heavy drinker, whatever, social drinker, regular. Yes, I would drink alcohol throughout the week and stuff. But anyway, when I was, for me and my fat loss journey, I thought about it more in terms of like, oh, it's empty calories. I don't want to gain weight. But this is really, really one of the most important reasons why we want to either eliminate or minimize our alcoholic intake is for the purposes of our health to prevent cancer. It is definitely cancer causing. It's very much a cancer causing element in our diet if we're drinking alcohol regularly, because studies will show you no matter how little, even one drink, doesn't matter the frequency or the dose, alcohol is cancer causing to tissues of the body. So I just want to put it out there because I love all of us. I love you. And I want you just to consider that not just as your calorie deficit, but also just for your health sake. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want, I didn't want to just skim over that. I just feel like that's really important to know. It's like it is putting poison in our bodies, which can cause cancer.
Yeah, that's a great point. And eyes wide open, we need to know what the risks are. So thank you for that.
Okay, so all right, let's talk about we love
Okay.
this part. This is gonna be good.
This is the fun. This is fun.
Yeah, this is the fun.
Let's discuss the three major advantages that you gain with resistance training. Because
Yay!
all your listeners are big on resistance
That's
training.
right.
So why do we do it? This is big. This is huge.
This is gonna be so great.
Number one is insulin sensitivity. So I throw these words out there,
Yeah.
but we need to talk about the heck does that mean?
What the heck does that mean? Yeah,
So
we're gonna bring it down.
There's insulin resistance
Break it
and there's
down.
insulin sensitivity.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's back up. So what is insulin? Insulin is a hormone among many hormones in our body that's responsible to help uptake glucose or sugar from our blood and deliver it to the cells for energy. Too much blood sugar from those sugary drinks and donuts and alcohol, from poor diet, etc., leads to resistance to the insulin hormone. So that's the bad thing. We don't want insulin resistance. We want to be sensitive to that hormone.
Absolutely. And I think one of if you want to have a visual of this, I visualize this. I don't know if I read this somewhere or I heard it, but it was a really good visual. It's like insulin is like the key that unlocks the cells so that it can go in and it can open up the doors of the cells and let the sugar in, let that energy in so that we can utilize it in our muscles, whatever organs that our body needs that sugar for energy. But when we are overdoing it and we have too much sugar in our blood system, and then our insulin is not able, it's like overworking.
Yeah.
Right. It's overworking the body, and it's like it's becoming insensitive to the insulin because there's just too much. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so muscle building and preservation specifically improves our body's use of insulin. And we do weight training to burn fat and to look good and, everything else. But this is a very, very important thing. So, uptaking that glucose and distributing it appropriately, that's the insulin sensitivity. Lifting weights helps manage blood sugar. So it's a key contributor to making sure you don't get into, pre-diabetes and diabetes and stuff like that. It also helps deny cancer cells the glucose that they thrive on for energy.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is? Because it's really true. Like, especially after the age of 40, women have a tendency to become more just insulin resistant, I guess is the way to put it. Their insulin sensitivity decreases. So
And why is that?
yeah, why is that? It's because what? Because after the age of 40, we are losing muscle mass.
Yeah. Yeah, and just the aging in general,
Yeah.
everything's changing. But yeah, and Mr. Alan Aragon says that it's the closest thing we have to the fountain of youth, resistance training. So it's going to promote hormone signaling. It's going to increase our insulin sensitivity. Like that's all kinds of good.
All kinds of good. And you're building that muscle mass. Um, Especially like it's never too late, right? It's never too late. You can actually build muscle it doesn't matter like how old you are, but if you start, you can actually build muscle on your body, and that's going to help the situation because muscle requires energy just to be in existence, and energy is calories. And so when you have that muscle mass on your body is able to utilize more of those calories that you're eating, and it's going to help you maintain a healthy weight.
Absolutely. Reason number two, when we contract our muscles, so think like a bicep curl, during weightlifting, there's different formats. A cancer-fighting protein is released,
Yeah.
and it's known as myokines.
Those are our friends.
Yeah, those are our friends. And there's a great MD on Instagram. Her name's Dr. Gabrielle Lyon.
Oh, yes, we know
She
her.
discusses this extensively with her work regarding, she says that muscle is the organ of longevity. Myokines can inhibit cancer growth with cell cycle arrest and other processes. So, I mean, who doesn't want that, right? So if you go and lift your weights and
there you go.
Fighting cancer.
It's huge. It's cancer fighting, it's longevity, it's helping hormone balance. There is endless reasons that we need to be strength training. And one of the things that I do want to bring a little clarity to, and I need to keep reminding all of our listeners, is that it's not just doing workouts with weights. We're not talking about just doing workouts with, that's not strength training. And I did a master class the other day, and I was talking about this, and it was like, it was very eye-opening to a lot of women. They didn't realize that that's not strength training. Strength training is when you're actually on a structured plan and you're doing same exercises week after week for a set of weeks to see progress, to see that you're gaining strength, over time. You're progressively overloading the muscles, so the muscles have to adapt and they have to grow and get stronger and build. That's strength training. So if you're not on a structured plan doing the same exercises week after week for like a 3-day split or a 4-day split like that, then you're not strength training. Strength training is not grabbing a workout on YouTube or the Peloton machine and just doing a workout with some weights. That's not strength training. So I just wanted to bring some clarity to that because I think a lot of women don't understand that is not strength training.
Yeah, very good point. What you're talking about is intelligent training, doing the right way, doing the right protocols. Very good.
Yeah, because you said resistance training. I mean, it's training, right? Resistance workouts, resistance. I don't know, but I just wanted to make sure people know what that means.
Yeah, very good. And then my third point, which I think is really important with regard to muscle training, is muscle acts as the storage or the reservoir for our body's amino acids. So our body's made up entirely of proteins, and a lot of our systems demand amino acids to function optimally. So our immune system, our hormone signaling, these are the things that keep our systems in balance. It's called homeostasis. And when we fall out of balance as we age, that's decline. And that's when stuff like cancer can creep in. So the more muscle tissue you have, the more amino acids you have in storage for your immune system to demand them when something happens and they need to address it and fight a disease or fight a virus or what have you.
Yeah.
So build those muscles to help out your immune system.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge. And then I brought one extra credit thing I want to talk about.
Okay, what's that?
So regarding our conversation, I wanted to make a public service announcement for 2 great blood tests that I recommend.
Here we go. The biomarkers.
Me and you, we love our blood tests, right?
Yeah.
So one of them is pretty relevant, and it's known as the acronym called CRP, stands for the term C-reactive protein, which all that is, it's an enzyme made by our liver in response to inflammation. So it's a great barometer for you to have as you're aging and taking care of yourself, to understand the background noise of stress placed on your immune system. So the lower you see that number, the better. 0 is the best number.
Okay.
So, and according to PubMed, once again, serum CRP levels in cancer patients is significantly higher than average. So it's a really good gauge that your immune system is working for you and ready to work for you optimally when you need it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
That's
and we
good.
know things that lower CRP are the fruits and vegetables, the exercise, managing our stress, minimizing our alcohol. So kind of repeating stuff we've already really addressed.
Right.
And then my other thing just to bring up, just because we talked about glucose and insulin sensitivity, is, well, how are you doing? So you don't know unless you test it. So what I want you to keep track of is what's called your HbA1c. And all that means is hemoglobin sugar. It's a little bit better metric than blood glucose because it has less day-to-day variability.
Right.
They're both good. But anyway, and you want to keep that number in a range. So you need blood glucose for
Yeah.
energy, but normal is less than 5.7%, but really keep it above 5, so 5 to 5.7. Pre-diabetes is when you're getting above that. So that's going to be 5.7, creeping up to 6.4% of your blood. Anything above 6.5%, and you're type 2 diabetic. So the weightlifting is going to keep your HbA1c in check.
Yeah.
So lift your weights and check your numbers.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Exercise. Absolutely. Exercise, regular exercise is going to also, outside of strength training, but getting regular exercise, it can definitely reverse the symptoms, the condition of diabetes, prediabetes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting when I was listening to Peter Attia talk about diabetes and prediabetes. It was really fascinating to me that, doctors will give you you'll do these biomarkers, you'll do your blood work, and this we're talking about the A1C, right? The A1C, so that like, are you in the diabetic? Are you a pre-diabetic stage? Where are you in this? But it was really interesting that for the most part, they're looking at just the general population, and they're not saying what is the optimal range. So if your doctor is saying that you're pre-diabetic, and it's like, okay, because what's happening is this isn't something that happens overnight. This
Right.
is diabetes, prediabetes, these kind of things are something that happens on the inside, and it's been slowly happening over time. It's been declining, right? So if you're in a pre-diabetic stage, I just want to just bring awareness. I'm not here to scare you, but prediabetes is like something to be like concerned about. It's not like, oh, I'm just pre-diabetic, I'm not diabetic yet. No, this is a serious sign that you've got to make some lifestyle changes, because that can quickly turn to diabetes. And you can, yes, reverse these things, but don't take lightly pre-diabetes, because I know Peter Attia was talking about this. I don't know if you got to that part in the book, but that people are not taking this very seriously.
Right.
You are already on the other side of your health, like the poor side of your health. If you're hitting pre-diabetes, let's work on this. Let's do something. Let's make the lifestyle changes. And I want to give you hope that there are so many things that you can do to get out of that stage. You just have to choose to do that. And I'm not going to get on my soapbox, but it's just because I care. And I know that it's easy to just brush under the rug and ignore it, but it's not going to get better. It will only get worse.
And we're in control. We're in control of that lever. So it's the
Yeah.
food we eat and the exercise we do.
Yeah,
That's on
absolutely.
us. Yep.
All of the things, getting plenty of rest and sleep, managing our stress levels, getting plenty of water to drink, avoiding or eliminating alcohol, the exercise, the strength training, and eating a balanced, healthy, nutritious diet. All of these things really matter. And the thing that I do want to just remind all of our listeners is that if you feel like all of that sounds overwhelming, don't let it. First of all, I know people don't like to hear this. I'm going to step on toes, Brett. Overwhelm is a choice. I know people don't like that, but it's true. You don't have to tackle all these things at once. Trying to tackle all of these things at one time, you're not going to be tackling any of them. You have to take this one thing at a time to create a healthy habit in one of these areas at a time. So, whatever the thing is in your life that is not helpful to your health, I just want to encourage you. What is that one thing that you can take a look at and say, yeah, you know what? I don't get enough vegetables. I'm going to work on this as a habit. Just take one thing that you can work on and make that a habit. But yes, same thing with exercise, same thing. You can work on all these things, but focus on one so you can establish the habit and not be overwhelmed. You'll get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love it. That's great advice. It takes time. That's very true.
It does, because there's a long list of things that we can do to really establish healthy, fit living, but we cannot do it all the time, all at once right now today. That's not possible. It's not. So don't get overwhelmed. Give yourself some grace. Love yourself, give yourself some self-compassion, and look at the one area that you feel like your health really needs some attention on. So if you are having these issues like pre-diabetes, then let's work on this. Let's work on the glucose levels and what we can do with your exercise and your nutrition to start managing that.
Yeah, I love it. And get that test of whatever HbA1c and then track it over time. And it's so motivating to see that your actions are causing those changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because, getting a comprehensive blood panel is very important, especially as we're aging, because we don't know really what's happening. Like, we don't know. We're living our lives and we look a certain way on the outside. We feel a certain way, but there's so many things happening on the inside. And there's all these biomarkers that you can track if you get the blood work done. And so most people don't know when they go to their annual physical, the doctor can order blood work. But what exactly? Get smart, get wise, and find out what blood work are we getting here? Is it just some kind of like minor blood work? We're just checking a few little things, and the doctor says you're normal, but actually your health is declining because you're not getting all these other biomarkers checked, which could be affecting things happening with your heart, with your liver, with your kidneys, with your lungs, with your brain function. Like, these are big things that we need to know. And if you're not getting these things checked, your sex hormones are going to impact all areas of your life, and your metabolic markers, your thyroid, all of these things we need to know what's going on too. Your insulin. Um, so I know that sounds like, whoa, that's a lot. And it is. I mean, it is. But do you want to ignore it? Or do you want to get curious about it and find out and learn more about how you can actually make some small changes over time to help you with your health, your fitness, and your longevity? We don't want to just live a long life. We want to live a strong, healthy, like as healthy as we can. We want to age strong. So yeah, get me on my
I
soapbox
know.
here, Brett.
It's true. I love what you said. You said the last thing I want to be is an average American, so I want optimal health. I don't want average American
Optimal.
health.
That's true. That's
No,
it,
I
right?
know.
Because I think most people just go to the doctor and the doctor says, oh, your blood
Oh,
work's fine. Well, go look at it. Go see the ranges. And those ranges that they're putting on there, they're based off of most people. Do you want to be most people?
no.
Most people are not optimal health.
Yeah,
I
that's a
want
great.
optimism.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered quite a bit in this episode,
for
Brad. I
sure.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
Um, any last minute things, any last things you want to share?
No, we just have to work
Nothing?
on our next horseman pretty soon. So,
Yeah. Do we know what the next one is? Or are you
oh,
gonna just wait?
we'll decide what we want to do. So
Okay. Yeah.
maybe we'll pick the third complicated one. So
The third
the
complicated
third
one.
most deadly.
Right. Yeah. So listeners, thank you so much for listening and hanging out with me and Brett during this episode. And I just want to encourage you to, learn more, get curious about your health and your own personal fitness, and keep on going. Stay strong and rock on.
Thank you.